It's a great question what you said about would live in it, and that's something that actually I do ask people when I talk about HMOs. When people have got HMOs, they're not performing well, and I said, "Would you live in your with your own HMO?" And often I get, "Won't live in it." That to me brings out a reaction because I always view if I wouldn't live in it, why would I expect somebody else to live in it?
It's a common. This is my thing, and if I'm interrupting, I apologize. I want to carry on, but I, I I must sometimes think I'm in a different universe because, and it's less so now. I think because people are getting a little bit educated to this.
I think the standards have risen as well. That's forced people to do better as
Yeah,
well.
well, again, it's a perceived standard. It's a
Yeah.
it's a it's a layer on top. But a very common comment I get about you know design, and they'll only see the pretty pictures, is why are you bothering? They're only tenants,
Mm.
and it's like I can't even argue with that because it makes no sense from a business perspective. You can't be a serious business person if you think that your customer isn't worth bothering
If
with.
you're that dismissive of
Yeah,
them,
and there's a saying,
and they are the ones that pay for your lifestyle.
well, yeah, and then that means that you're only doing things for the money. You're not doing it for the passion. You're not doing it for the love. You're doing it for the money. And even Warren Buffett says, be passionate about what you're doing and don't do it for the money. Do it because you're passionate about it. So you're just going against logic. You're going against what the successful people say you should do, but you're doing what the herd does. And again, what do they say? Don't follow the herd. So it's like, am I living in an alternate universe, or are people saying stuff but not hearing what they're saying? I want to be a success, but I'm going to follow the herd. It's like, do, do you not listen to what you're reading? But I'm not going to slag off 90% of the investors in the world, but think about what you're saying here. You're going against what the most successful people in the world are telling you to do.
What do you think are the biggest mistakes you still see people making even today when they're getting started in property
Like I
in
said,
the
a
early in
lack
their
of common
journey?
sense. A lack of common sense. Um, Investing in property is a long-term game. And again, I will quote Warren Buffett. I'm a designer, but I'm going to quote Warren Buffett, and he says, "Don't invest in anything unless you're going to be in it for more than 10 years." And a lot of people that invest have this kind of very short-term mindset, so it's a lack of common sense. So I would say number one is exercise common sense. You're getting into business. You're not just chucking money on a commodity. You're getting into business. So I would say do your research on how to be successful in business. I would also say in property, and you hear it a lot, is you should be a people person. You've got to be a people person to be in property. And I would agree with that one. You do need to be a people person. Networking, get networking is really important. Build a network of good people. Try not to follow the herd, which is common sense. But I would say just common sense and emotional intelligence. And if there's books on common sense, if there's books on emotional intelligence, then follow the principles of, how to apply common sense when you're going into business. You know, Google is a great resource. How do I make success of a business if I'm getting involved with no experience? And it will give you a set of instructions on what to do. And, if it says educate yourself, then don't go in and say, oh, I'm not going to bother educating myself. This is easy. Because the first principle of being a success in a business you're not going to get into is education. The other thing is, even Warren Buffett, or again, it's Charles Munger, Warren Buffett, or Steve Jobs, educate
You can't go wrong learning
yourself.
from people like
Precisely. So, don't assume that you know everything. Don't assume that it's easy. It's very complicated. And if you make a mistake, it's going to be a very expensive and time consuming mistake. So don't take it lightly. And and again, due diligence is, what is due diligence? And another Warren Buffett, this is Charles Munger quote. He said, you can do all the due diligence you like, but if you don't apply common sense, you might as well go to hell. So I'd say common sense is the big thing, and if you're not confident, then do your research, do your feasibility study, take your time. And if your gut feeling says this ain't right, then go with your gut feeling. But investing in property is not something that should be taken lightly. Mistakes, and I would say, and I don't know about you, but I would say probably 80% of people that get into property, just like in business, 80% of the people that go into business fail. I'd say 80% of people that go into property, even though they say it's this amazing passive income thing, 80% of people that go into property don't really achieve great results.
Yeah, but I'd say probably even higher.
So if we're saying, you and I agree, is more than 80% of people that get involved in property don't really achieve great results, then don't act like the 80%.
Yeah. And they could do better had they taken a different approach. But often, I think sometimes property can be seen as a get rich quick, but there is no get rich quick. As you said, we're talking about 10-year plans. People don't want to talk about 10-year plans. They want to talk about, where's my money in 10 months?
That's not a common sense. This is why I'm saying you have to apply common sense. Because if you're the kind of person that thinks there is such a thing as a get rich quick scheme, then you don't have a lot of common sense and you're going to fail. Property does take time. And if you think you're going to get rich quick, those are the kind of people that invest in Dubai and then lose everything. So if Warren Buffett said, if you're going to invest in anything, commodities or property, stocks and shares, if you ain't going to get in it for more than 10 years, you might as well forget about it. And that's the approach.